welcome to Little Learners. In today's video, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the three main parenting styles, plus a kind of bonus parenting style as well, so that you can understand the different types and what they might look like. I just want to start off by saying that you do not, as a parent, have to subscribe to a particular parenting style. You do not have to identify yourself as a particular type of parent, but I think it's interesting to learn about these different approaches to parenting and the kind of pros and cons that come with each of those. So if you are interested in things like this, then please give this video a like, as it lets me know that you enjoy videos such as this one and to keep making them. When we look at the different types of parenting, it has a lot to do with the level of control, level of affection, and how these kind of play into everyday scenarios. Authoritarian parenting. Authoritarian parenting is also sometimes known as kind of old school parenting. This parenting style has a high level of control from the parents and also demands respect from children for parents. So there's a high level of control, high expectation of respect. There's kind of the do as I say, not as I do attitude, and there is often a very high expectation of what children are able to do, both physically and emotionally, and these expectations are usually not age appropriate. They're usually expecting children to be little adults, really, and expecting them to be able to do things before they are developmentally ready to do those things, especially when it comes to emotional intelligence. For many authoritarian parents, this is just the way that they believe parenting should be done. They want the absolute best for their children, they love their children, and they have learned throughout their own lives or through literature that they've read, or many different reasons can come into it, that in order to prepare your child for the real world, we need to control everything that they do, we need to make sure that they are doing as they are told, and we should have very high expectations of them. So a very quick example, maybe you go out to a restaurant and you have a 1-year-old at the table and the 1-year-old is throwing food on the floor. An authoritarian parent might expect that child not to make lots of noise in the restaurant, not to throw their food on the floor, just having these non-age related expectations. Now, even though authoritarian parents may love their children, there is often a lack of showing affection when it comes to authoritarian parenting, because this is often seen as a bit of a weakness. If a child is crying, they might be told to stop. If a child is upset, they might be told to just get over it, not think about it anymore. And so children are often not taught about how to regulate their own emotions, and they are just taught that in order to obtain affection from their parents, or in order to obtain a connection with their parents, they must behave in a certain way. On the outside, a child might look like a really well-behaved child. They do as they're told all the time. They are extremely polite. But then on the inside, they may have very high anxiety, a lot of difficulty with building and maintaining relationships, and less of an attachment with their caregiver than they would like. Moving on then to permissive parenting. Permissive parenting is kind of the opposite of authoritarian parenting. So permissive parenting is about having very little control over children, allowing children to have the majority of the control, and showing lots of affection, but really just allowing children to have all the freedom that they want. And this can also carry over into situations where it might not be safe for children to have certain controls, like running into a busy road or accessing tools that they are not developmentally able to look after safely, like a pair of sharp scissors, for example. Now, there are kind of two sides to permissive parenting, I think. One is parents who are extremely detached and don't want to be involved with their child and just allow their child to have freedom because they don't want to deal with having to try and make boundaries and rules and try and have any kind of control. And then we have the other side of permissive parenting, where you have parents who just love their children so much and respect their children so much that they either don't want to upset their children ever, they don't want to say no, or they just want their children to have all the freedom in the world, and that's how they feel children will learn best. So it's certainly not a case that all permissive parents don't care about their children or don't care about parenting. There are definitely two sides to this. And I think that that is a common misconception, that all permissive parents who just allow their children to have all the control don't care about their children. But in actual fact, many of these parents care about their children so much, and that's why they give lots of control to their children. This parenting style also sometimes involves a very low expectation of what children can do and what is age appropriate. So maybe not giving their children the kind of independence that they are able to handle. So for example, if a child is able to walk to the park, they might go in the pushchair instead. That's a very simple example, and of course that's not a one-size-fits-all, but just to give you a bit of an example. Authoritative parenting, on the other hand, is kind of in the middle of these two. I think authoritative parenting can often be confused with authoritarian parenting because of the words used there. It's also often referred to as gentle parenting, and I know that gentle parenting has gained a lot of traction over the last decade, so if you would like a video about gentle parenting or authoritative parenting, then do let me know in the comments below. So authoritative parenting is to do with control that is kind of shared. There's a bit of a balance of control between parent and child. The parent is still mainly in control, but they give the child control when appropriate, when they're able to. There is also a really high level of affection and compassion. The age-related expectations for children is usually fairly spot on, and children are encouraged to have independence, but there are also very clear boundaries set. There is a big emphasis in authoritative parenting about emotional intelligence, treating children with respect, and knowing that respect is earned, and it's all about kind of a mutual respect. Teaching children how to regulate their own emotions, talking through their emotions, and not punishing a child for having emotional outbursts, knowing that those are normal and we can help children to work through those. So if we think about each of these three types of parenting, I'm going to give you some very simple examples of what this might look like in different scenarios. Please remember that these are just generalized examples and not necessarily specific to each parenting style, but it may be helpful to kind of illustrate how they might work. So if we are in a supermarket and a child has been asked to stay with their parent when we're walking around the supermarket and the child keeps running off, authoritarian parenting might look like shouting at the child, giving the child a time out, or telling the child that they won't be able to play with their toys when they get home, having lots of kind of consequences, punishments, and really an immediate punishment for that behaviour. Permissive parenting might look like not calling the child back, letting them run around the supermarket and not knowing exactly what they're getting up to, allowing them to have that freedom, but also not setting any boundaries about that. There may have not even been the boundary set in the first place to stay with the parent and the trolley. Authoritative parenting might look like a child running off, the parent bringing them back and explaining to them, I've asked you to stay with me and you've run away, and this is why I've asked you to stay with me. These are the reasons, and I understand that you want to go off and look at things, so tell me what you'd like to go and look at and we can go and look at it together. So it's kind of that mutual respect there, creating that boundary of you must stay with your parent, but also respecting the fact that a child has these desires to go and look at some other things and responding to that. Not necessarily having to say no completely, but coming up with a bit of a creative yes. Very simple examples, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what it might look like in practice. And I'm going to talk about over-involved parenting or helicopter parenting next. So this is more of a new thing, I suppose. It's existed before, but the term helicopter parenting is newer. And this is to do with parents being overly involved in their child's lives and not allowing that independence. So there's probably very high affection. There might be very high anxiety from the parent's perspective that they need to have this very well-behaved child, or they don't want the child to have emotional outbursts or tantrums in public. There is a lot of pressure on parents to look like the most amazing parent ever. And the way that many parents view how they are judged is by how their child looks in public. So if your child looks like they're really well behaved in public, that must mean that you're a really good parent. So helicopter parenting can look like a parent jumping in and doing things for a child rather than letting them do it themselves, even though they are able to do it themselves. Helicopter parenting might be deciding things for your child, not giving them the option to decide, and really just not giving the child any kind of independence or choice because you're jumping in before they even get to do that themselves. As a parent, I know how much pressure is put on parents to get an A in parenting, and it's just not realistic because, and I want to emphasize this, you cannot control a child. You cannot control a child. You, as a person, cannot control 100% another person. And I think that the idea that you can and should control a child is where authoritarian parenting came from, and the anxiety that comes with that can cause helicopter parenting. It can also cause some cases of permissive parenting because parents are so worried about being judged in public and their child having a tantrum in public and that making them look like a bad parent. They don't intervene and let their child do what they want because as long as they can keep them happy, then it's fine. Now, these are the main 3+1 parenting styles that we generally think about, but of course they are by no means the only parenting styles that exist, and there are many different parenting styles that might incorporate different aspects of these parenting styles or fall in between them in some cases. There may be some parents that take a bit of one and a bit of another. There may be some parents who are an authoritarian parent one day and a permissive parent the other day, because parenting is a roller coaster. But I think it's really important to just remember that you cannot control a child. All you can do is give them the tools to learn and to understand and regulate their own emotions and behaviour, support them and be there for them. And just know that as a parent, if you love your child and want the best for them, you are doing the best you can. And for a lot of us, the parenting style that we have, even if we don't give it a name, has to do with how we were brought up ourselves. Either we had a really good childhood and we use a lot of the parenting techniques that our parents used for us on our own children, or we didn't have a very happy childhood and want to do things very differently to how our parents parented us. So a lot of the time, the way that we parent our children has to do with our own insecurities, anxieties, or our own desires. But above everything else, we just want the best for our children, and we are all doing the best we can. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up as it really helps out the channel, and please do subscribe if you haven't already. We are almost at 200,000 subscribers, and I know that most people who watch these videos aren't actually subscribed, so please do click that subscribe button. It would be lovely to have you join the Little Learners family. Leave me a comment down below to let me know what you thought of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.